Welcome to an episode of Summary Judgment. I know it's been a bit since I talked about Judgment. It's been a bit since I recorded it all, so I'm sort of doing a bit of a aggressive recording today. So there's going to be a lot of Judgment and Full Circle content, but this one's about Judgment. So you may recall that I wanted to get through all of the Wave 1 models before the Wave 2 models showed up. I probably won't make it, but I'm going to try still. I may be getting them tomorrow as of this recording, which means by the time this is posted, I may actually have the Wave 2 models. But we'll pretend that I'm trying my best to make this happen. So, but that's fine. If we bleed into a little bit of the Wave 2, having some time to play a few of them and stuff will really help. So, anyways, today I want to talk about Kvarto, Old Buckethead. If you go look at the model, that'll make more sense. But it's pretty obvious. He's got a bucket on his head. It looks like he's got a bucket on his head. So he's Old Buckethead. Anyways, he is so we're just going through his card here, and we'll talk a little bit about synergies and whatnot as we go through. But he is a human pariah. Of course, as a review, if you haven't, if you're not super familiar with Judgment, the second part there. The part between hybrid and human is actually gameplay-wise irrelevant. That's just a little fluff to understand the type of character. So, anyways, Kvarto is a human pariah who is a hybrid. And again, hybrid in this game, it's sort of the category that has no explanation. Basically, the most relevant part of this is that they're not defenders, because that's sort of the most relevant distinction of models in the game, is that a lot of things say it can't affect another defender. But it also is highlighting that they're not really a support. They're not really just straight up an aggressor. They're not really a defender. They're not really a soul gazer. They sort of live in a world where they kind of occupy a little bit of maybe all of that, or maybe a couple of those roles. Anyways, Kvarto is Kvarto is human, and thus the stat line reflects that. Movement 4, agility 4, no resilience. Melee is 6, magic of 7, no ranged attack, and a soul harvest ability of 4. Kvarto has 2 attacks. The first is a cleaver, which is a melee attack. It costs a single action. It is a 2-inch range, and it does a 2-3-4 damage grid. The other attack is the Optic Blast, which is a magic attack. It also costs a single action. It's range 6, and it also has a 2-3-4 damage grid. And then as we flip the card over, we get to Kvarto has 2, at level 1, Kvarto has 2 combat maneuvers. He has Incendiary, which costs 2 symbols. An enemy model damaged by Optic Blast suffers the fire condition. So if you damage, you can spend the 2 symbols you hopefully get and add some fire to the mix. And then Poison, which is also 2 symbols. Enemy model damaged by Cleaver, so this is the melee attack, suffers the poison condition. Okay. And then as far as active abilities, Kvarto has Hold Monster, which costs a single action. Target enemy monster within 4 inches does not advance the next time it activates, and then this effect expires. Kvarto has Mind Control, which also costs a single action. Target friendly model within 4 inches immediately makes a basic attack against target enemy model. The attack can execute any combat maneuvers available to the target friendly model. And then finally, Telekinesis. As you may note from all games you've played ever, always a very... when you see that word, it's generally tied to a powerful effect, and this is no exception. This costs an action and a fate. Target enemy model within 4 inches is placed completely within 5 inches of its current location. When Kvarto gets up to level 2, he gains Scaly Skin, which means he gets +1 resilience and cannot suffer the poison condition. And then finally, at level 3, he gets Enhanced Mutation, which is when this model gains... This is an innate ability. This model gains a bonus +1 damage when resolving an attack or active ability versus an enemy model who is suffering fire or poison conditions. The attack or ability gains an additional +1 damage if the enemy model is suffering both. So that's pretty cool. Just some notes. We know what fire does, poison does. On mind control is the only one I really want to touch on. If an attack from mind control kills an enemy model, Kvarto will gain the level, soul, and or bounty if the slain enemy was a monster. All right, so old Buckethead here. When do we play old Buckethead? So just a real quick personal analysis of the game sort of thing is that the supports and hybrids in this game are particularly good at filling gaps because the way the game is played. So let's ignoring if you're doing a draft, right? So taking that out of the equation for a moment. One of the things that hybrids and supports really do well, and there's a couple exceptions where aggressors do this too, but what they really do well, or what they can really do well, is help you round out your composition. Because let's, if you're doing a 3v3 game, you only get to have 5 heroes, you're going to have 1 banned, and 1 is going to not be used. And what that means is it's going to be hard to fill all of the shoes that you need to fit, right? So let's say we're talking about a 3v3 for the moment, and let's say you want to go with something like, let's say Thrommel. So you've got a defender. Let's say Cruel. So now you've got a Soul Gazer, and let's go with Thorgar, Minotaur. So you've got an aggressor, right? So you've kind of got your 3 sort of bases met. Well, now you've only got 2 spots left, right? So you've got a Soul Gazer, you've got a defender, and you've got an aggressor. So you've only got 3 slots left. So now, how do you fill those? You've got 2 slots left. You've used your 3. So how do you fill those spots? Because if one of those gets banned, what do you do, right? You could add another, and which thing you fill out is going to change this as well. So you could add another, let's say, aggressor. So let's say Brock in this case. You could add Brock, and now if Thorgar gets banned out, you could play Brock. But then you're only left with one. You're left with 1 slot in your, out of your 5. And now are you going to put a defender, a Soul Gazer in there, or are you going to add a support so that you can mix it up a little bit? Supports often can sort of fill the Soul Gazer role, but anyway, we'll come back to that. So how do you fill that last spot? Because if you put another Soul Gazer in there, let's say, I would suggest that you're almost immediately going to see a ban on Thrommel, because now they can take your defender out of the game, and if they have a defender, they're probably going to be able to keep their damage dealers alive and do work into yours, because you're not going to have any way to sort of protect your aggressors, or Soul Gazers. If you put another defender in there, now you're going to have 2 defenders and then a soul, and you might have 2 aggressors, 2 defenders, and a Soul Gazer. Well, now they're going to ban your Soul Gazer, and they know they don't have to deal with that. Anyways, you can see how this is going to go. It kind of keeps going like this. In the bigger game, the same problem happens because you're going to draft 5, but you do have a little bit more flexibility. So the place where some of these hybrid characters fits is someone like Kvarto. If you sort of listen through how I talked about him, has the ability to kind of play in be adjustable to be able to be played in different ways, right? So if you can get him to level 2 very quickly, and you don't have a defender, he gains +1 resilience. He can't suffer poison. There's also an item that defenders specifically can't buy that gives you +1 resilience. He can actually purchase it, and now he can be a 4 agility, 2 resilience character. You could also give him +1 agility. So again, like, he can go from being a support piece to being the piece that can do your tanking. He can also really turn up the ability for you to do damage. Mind control means you can turn your other damage into damage, but also between the fire, condition, and poison, if you can get him to level 3, additional damage is coming from that. You can do a lot of damage. Or he can sort of live in the support role, right? Telekinesis, mind control, hold monster, these are all very support-heavy abilities. Kvarto is great in that he has a lot of different ways that you can play him. He's also immune to poison at level 2, which can be very relevant against somebody like Rakir or Zaffin on the other side. I already went over Enhanced Mutation. Anyways, and then there's some pretty notable... in this game also, there's notable combos that happen, right? So Mind Control is probably the one that's the most, like, combo-rific. I just made that word up. I probably didn't just make that word up. I'm sure somebody else has said that. But that pairs very well with certain types of attacks. In particular, I already mentioned one of them, but Thrommel and Zaffin, the dwarves, who have 2 action cost attacks, being able to get additional attacks of those very high potency attacks is incredibly good. Thrommel's hammer, I believe, is the hardest hitting thing in the game. As far as heroes you can take. I think some of the neutral monsters hit harder, but is one of the hardest hitting things in the game. You can do a stun off of it pretty easily, and it's like 4, 5, 7 for damage or something like that. It's pretty good. Zaffin is similar, right? He gets I don't have his card up here, but he does a pretty considerable amount of damage, but you know, he needs to spend 2 actions to actually do it, and to get a second attack he has to have not moved, so that can be very tricky as well. But he's Kvarto's going to be particularly good with anybody who's got a solid attack. Somebody like just a simple Throgar or Zonia is going to be really good to get an additional attack out of. He also combos quite nicely with anybody who wants fire or poison on the board. So Rakir, Istariel, I think Alandir has an ability that likes fire. It's possible that Barnascus, who's new, also likes that, etc. And then he has the really fate-heavy ability of telekinesis, and the reason is that that's incredibly strong. You're being able to move a model 4 inches from where it currently, 5 inches from where it currently is located, can completely change how a game is going to transpire. Enemy models also include the neutral monsters. While they are, I just said neutral, they are your enemies, so he can move them as well. Hold Monster can be particularly helpful for keeping certain members of your party from having any issues. Yeah. So just in general, I mean, that's kind of an overview of Kvarto. I would say he's one of the higher skill cap type heroes. You still need to position him decently well. He's got 16, we didn't go over this, but he has 16 boxes at level 1. He gains 1 at 2 and 2 at level 3. So he would go up to 19 total if he maxes his level out. He's a very good piece to add, and often I think you're going to see him get some bans because if you've got that Thrommel Zaffin combo with him, I think you may see a lot of people ban out Kvarto, so you should have a plan for when that happens. Pardon me. And but overall, Kvarto is very interesting. The model itself is it's of a particular taste. I would not. It's a cool model, but for me, it's not necessarily one of their most gorgeous models. And he's not supposed to be, right? He's old Buckethead. But yeah, so that's kind of the overview of him, and a little bit of a generic overview of where hybrids fit into the game. He does a lot of little things. He certainly is not going to excel in any particular area, but he's going to be able to sort of fill any gap that you might have, and then also bring a unique, like all of his level 1 talents kind of bring a unique set of skills that you add to your warband. So that's it for this particular episode. Hopefully you like it. I'm going to keep putting more of these out. We'll see, like I said, how quickly I get through the rest of what's left of Wave 1. Wave 1 was not tiny by any means, but and Wave 2 is even bigger. So we're going to do this. I've been playing more games, so hopefully I have some more things to add. I think I've lost most of them, unfortunately, like just barely. But yeah, so just keep in mind when I'm talking through this is just sort of the ramblings of a guy who really likes this game and really loves the models for it. So anyways, yep, that's all on Kvarto. Play some Judgment, and until next time, thank you.